You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 113, and my name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. With me, as usual, is John, who is Trade You at Recess on IG. But missing today is our other regular co-host, Hyung, who's busy working on a separate but exciting project. But he should be back next week, so yeah, we're looking forward to having him back in our next episode. Okay, so off the top, a couple of quick things I wanted to touch upon. First, an update on the Babe Ruth National Treasures cut autograph card that had the George Brett autograph card in it instead. Well, that was resolved after the customer who pulled the hit sent it back to Panini, and they apparently had another cut auto of Babe Ruth, which they put in a new booklet card and sent it back to the owner. You know, I don't know if you heard last week's podcast, but I was joking in that episode that Panini just had cut autographs of Babe Ruth lying around, but I guess they actually do. So I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad it worked out for the guy that had the George Brett auto.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
I mean, first of all, good on Panini. I spoke in the wrong about maybe this was all a hoax or whatever, but clearly it was real. It was a real error. Looks like they resolved it fairly quickly to turn around a card. Funny enough, it's really funny that they just happen to have Babe Ruth cut autos like, you know, on the Rolodex just to literally go through and give away. I don't know, like maybe they have a bunch of them. Maybe it's pretty incredible that they were able to flip that around that quick.
I know, it makes me think how many they have just lying around and
for future product.
If I had to cut out of Babe Ruth, should I start selling? You know what I mean? Like the supply is not as low as we thought. I don't know. That's all speculation, of course. But yeah, glad that got resolved. And actually, speaking of hoax, there was one. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, and I think even Card Porn got caught putting this up on their post, but they had a George Brett card with a Babe Ruth cut auto in it, and someone totally photoshopped it. But
maybe that's what I
it.
saw and thought it was right.
Right. So yeah, when I saw them, like, there's no way they could have flipped those autos in. So I think that was a hoax. Anyway, a lot of people were fooled by that. Okay, the other piece of news, of course, is the big one in the NBA. LeBron James becoming the all-time scoring leader. John, I'm curious to see what you think about this, since you've been on the record on this podcast as not being a huge fan of LeBron. Yeah. You know, are you giving him the respect due, or what's your thought?
You know, I'm you guys know me. I'm a hater of LeBron, but yeah, I mean, to be fair, we're watching greatness. I've never denied watching his greatness. Like that's a humongous accomplishment. I think for those that are probably in a similar thought process like me, like other quasi haters or MJ lovers, I think it's just the way he's been. You know, I'll give it to him. He's been like a fantastic basketball player, fantastic teammate, fantastic person off the court, yada yada yada. But I think it's just the humility, like the way he approaches certain topics, and like, you know, some of that stuff like clearly rubs people the wrong way. It rubs me the wrong way. So I think that's where most of my hate lies around. But in terms of like his accomplishment of becoming the all-time scorer, like, man, that's monstrous. Like, I mean, that speaks to his scoring ability, number one. Speaks to, you know, like his health. Like, this guy he's a monster. Like, he just doesn't get injured, right? So that's probably like a huge component of his scoring as well, right?
That some people use that against him, eh?
Right. Yeah, like you can't, like, what are you supposed to, I get it. Like, that's going a bit too far, like blaming a guy for having like a amazing monster body. But I mean, I was watching a segment. Well, I really like to watch JJ Redick, and he had his pod. He was talking about how it's unfair that people kind of put LeBron, like he's not amongst the best scorers of all time. Even though he has a scoring record, he's not. There's sort of that narrative going on. I will, even as a hater, I will agree with that because, he's whatever, top 3 in points per game. He's got the most points all time. Like you can't, even a hater can't deny that he's one of the greatest scorers of all time. So,
hey, stats don't lie. So, yeah, no, I hear you. But it is funny you saying like, the things that rub a lot of people the wrong way about LeBron is, his humility. I mean, his nickname is King James, right? But I just like to point out Michael Jordan wasn't exactly the most humble guy either, okay? So I don't know if there's a double standard here, but
I'm sure there is.
But I get it.
Yeah. There's just like, it's just some of the other funny stuff. It's like just weird stuff where he's always talking about how he reads a lot of books and he listens to Beethoven, and every time there's a meme of him reading like the first page of every book, like he doesn't actually read books. And I don't know, just some of the stuff he says, it's a bit funny, but anyways.
All right. I didn't hear that, but on the court, undeniable, he's a pretty great player. So yes, do you think it has any impact on his card values?
I think we've already seen it, right? I think his Chrome, we've been talking about his Chrome card forever. It probably went all the way down to 5,000-ish, maybe. I'm kind of guessing. I remember it going pretty low.
Yeah.
And I think recently, I keep hearing people saying, even if you look at Facebook forums, like people are trying to sell them, and I keep seeing prices like 8,000, 8,500, 9,000.
Yeah.
So clearly it's gone up. Yeah.
There's a rebound for sure. I think the last one I saw was 7.5. So it's gone up from the bottom, but I think it's this short-term kind of rebound. Like I kind of look at, when Steph Curry broke the 3-point record. Like there was a short-term bump in his value, but then it kind of settled down. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's going to happen to LeBron's cards in general. So like now is probably not the best time to buy a LeBron James rookie card with all the hype and the news around his achieving this record. But I would wait if you're looking to get a LeBron rookie, like a Topps Chrome, like we're talking about, because I think it will settle down and eventually it will go back up when he's closer to retirement. And when people realize, when all is said and done, all the records and achievements he's been able to hit is going to be incredible when you see the grand scheme of things. But yeah, if you're looking to get one, I would probably advise not buying one at even a small premium.
100%. I'm with you. I think there's a case to be made that maybe there's going to be a new floor. So instead of as low as 5,000, maybe the new floor is 6,000. But in terms of like purchasing it right now, I would stay away and wait a bit. Unless, maybe you're a high roller, maybe a super rare one kind of comes into your hands. It's a little bit of a different scenario. But we're talking about these fairly more high population cards. Yeah, definitely wait for this buzz to kind of wear off.
Yep, we're aligned on that. All right, let's move on now to hobby headlines. Okay, so speaking of LeBron and basketball, as we're recording this episode, the NBA trade line just passed.
Crazy.
And there were a bunch of trades. Yeah, a lot of trades, a lot of action. I was on this like trade ticker and I just had to keep refreshing and a new one popped up like at one point every minute. You know what I mean? So we can't go over every one, but I wanted to go through a few of the major ones and how it'll impact the card values, if it does at all, of the players who just got traded. All right, so let's begin with Kyrie Irving, who went to the Mavericks. He gets to play with Luka Doncic, and they might make a legit run now deep into the playoffs. People are excited to see the two paired up. What are your thoughts? Do you think Kyrie gets a bump here?
I haven't checked the prices, but I'd imagine there is a bit of a bump, or at least a lot of activity on his cards being sold. It's really funny. There's like I don't know about you, and I'm kind of just speaking for myself. When the rumors start circulating, you hear, obviously the first thing you hear is, Irving probably Kyrie back to the Lakers. And everybody, you kind of roll your eyes. Oh, here we go again. Not really going to do anything to his prices. Not going to make you look at him any differently. Then you might hear some rumors about him going to the Clippers. And you're kind of like, okay, roll your eyes. Oh, here we go again. And then the news breaks and it's the Mavs. unexpected, something completely different.
Right.
People have been, the hobby basketball darling Luka is now getting another star with him, and your eyes kind of like perk up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you kind of think of it differently.
True.
I'm not rolling my eyes at it. I'm not saying like I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
I still question whether they can really make it work, but I'm not like rolling my eyes saying, "Oh, here we go again, Kyrie to the Lakers." And so I think because, at least for myself, I feel like this was probably the best thing to happen to Kyrie of all the trade scenarios. I think this brings him back into the light of some sort of excitement. So, I could see there being a bump. I don't think it's enough because there's just so many Kyrie haters. I think people are just so tired of, like whether it's fair or not to hate on him in a certain sense. I think people are kind of tired of the way he's been handling himself as a basketball player. So it's probably not going to make him any more likable, but I'm sure people are going to kind of keep tabs on him, and there's going to be certainly a lot of activity.
Yeah. No, you're right. I feel like I do see a lot more listings,
right?
And it's not surprising. And listeners of this pod will know that I have a PSA 9 that I got graded, right? Of the base Kyrie Irving, that took a year and a half to get back,
selling
right?
it?
So damn right I'm selling it. It's like, this is my narrow window of opportunity to sell it at to break even, right? So like it went down so much, right? Like in the like around Christmas, November, when I was looking at trying to sell it, and I think it went down to like $75 for like a PSA 9 of the 2012 Panini Prism base. And I just looked at what it's sold for recently. It's about $100 now. So I'm like, okay, and I feel like I bought it at 90 and I graded it. So I'm still at a loss, but not as much as a loss I would have, right? So if you have it, especially with like cards that have higher population, this might be your narrow window of opportunity to sell it. I would agree. Do that. For the higher end cards, we'll see what it does. I think there's value in Kyrie Irving. At the end of the day, he's a great player. He's racking up the stats, and I think he'll get his respect when everything's said and done. But yeah, right now, I would take the opportunity to sell if you have one of those more liquid cards. And and I agree with you. Like him coming to Dallas, everyone got a little bit excited. I think it's because of the Luka factor too, right? Like Luka's been asking for legitimate number 2 or number 1A, 1B player to play alongside, and now everyone's more excited about what Luka can do with the team now that Kyrie's on it. So I think that adds to the excitement. Speaking of which, like, what do you think this trade does to Luka's value? Do you think anything at all?
Yeah, I think Luka's in the same scenario. There's probably like a very tiny activity bump just based on the excitement. Probably not enough to move the needle. I think people are going to kind of wait. So they're going to wait to see. It's a bit of a wait and see. So you're going to want to watch the first game. Maybe it's going to be this Saturday, or the first 5 games. And I think if you see Luka still getting his triple doubles, like nothing's really changed, both him and Kyrie dropping 40 each, winning games, looks like they're having fun, high-fiving. If you see like an ideal scenario like that in the next 5 to 10 games, I could see both of their cards starting to take a bit of a point upwards. So I think for most people, there's going to be a little bit of a bump right now because of the hype of the excitement. But mostly it's probably going to be a bit of a wait and see.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I also have a Luka Silver Prism PSA 10. And if they play well together, I'm listing that too. So I'm going to be busy this next week or two trying to unload and get some cash and hopefully reinvest into bigger cards. But if that doesn't happen, if they like don't gel for whatever reason right away, then I think it's a wait and see. Like you said, I think at that point, the Mavs have to win. You know what I mean? They almost have to go all the way at that point for any kind of price fluctuation upward. So, and that's going to be easier said than done, obviously, because of another bigger trade. It's a good segue. Someone else is coming to the West. Kyrie Irving's former teammate, Kevin Durant, which was shock.
Insane.
Pretty much everyone. He's going to the Phoenix Suns for a boatload of prospect picks and a couple of players. Yeah, so Durant to the Suns. You think Kevin Durant's values are going to go back up, or because it's definitely taken a hit over the last year or two?
Yeah, I could see a more significant bump for Durant than Doncic and Irving. Man, that news, like when the news broke where they're saying Durant going to the Suns, like it looks like Durant's going to the Suns. I mean, you have to think in your mind, are they giving up Booker? Are they giving up Chris Paul and Ayton and 2 first-round picks? Are they giving up Ayton and Bridges and lots of picks? And the fact that they kept Ayton and kept Booker and kept Paul, like they gave up Bridges, but my goodness, they still pretty much have the core of their team, like their pretty strong playoff team core, and then adding on Kevin Durant. Like, I mean, hey, everyone can hate on, including us, we can hate on Durant all you want, and we can say that he's not one of the best players in the league right now, but I think this kind of thing, seeing the movement of Kevin Durant shows how scary, how dominant, whether we like to admit it or not, this Durant he moves the needle, man. Wherever he goes, he's going to make some other team a serious contender. So this is like when that news broke and you're hearing this news about the Lakers trades, and you're just like, all useless trades, because now like it's you're gonna have to go through the Suns. It's gonna be ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that was a crazy trade. I think, I don't know if Durant cards are gonna go up right away, but I definitely think they got a very, very good shot to win the championship. So I think long term, Durant adding another championship to his resume will add to the value, of his cards. I think I'll do more actually for Booker's value, like once he comes back from injury. Booker, even CP, CP3 maybe, to a much lesser extent, because he'll win his first championship if that happens, right? So there'll be news around that. But with Durant, I think it'll rebound almost naturally. I feel like the hate's gone too far for Durant cards, and I'm always looking to get one for my own PC because he's one of the best. Like you said, you could hate him for his off the court antics or just his attitude in general, but on court he's kind of like how you feel about LeBron. You can't argue about the stats that he puts up, and he's one of the all-time great scoring forwards in the game. So
I think Durant's prices going up has a lot more to do with investors than it does collectors, because this move is not going to make you like Durant anymore, so collectors don't care. But this initial bump that may or may not happen, it'd probably have some championship baking into it. I think that's the bump that we're going to probably see right now. People trying to get in early, kind of assuming Durant is going to win another ring. Nothing to do with liking him anymore because of this move. It's just strictly, I think this is an investment bump that we're probably going to see.
Good point. Yeah, good point. And just going back to what we were talking about with the Phoenix Suns, kind of the overwhelming favorite right now to go all the way. That's why if you're waiting for the Mavs to hopefully go all the way, I think you got to look at the Suns team and just kind of realize, maybe you should try to sell now with the excitement of the news of Irving and Doncic playing together. So, okay, all the rest, like you mentioned, kind of pales in comparison in terms of the trades that happen. But, we could touch upon it very quickly. Russell Westbrook to the Jazz. I mean, this is his 5th team in 6 seasons. It's crazy how his career has went. You know what I mean? Like, played for the Thunder for the first 10, 11 years and then just hopped around different teams and just couldn't find the right teammate to gel with. And it's more of the same, I guess, going to the Jazz at this point. You think Westbrook's done in terms of card value, or?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not touching Westbrook. I've been saying it for forever. I'm not touching Westbrook. I actually thought, there was so much news that he was not going to end up on the Jazz, like he was going to get moved again, but I guess it didn't happen. I didn't wait around until 3-4 o'clock, so I'm not sure exactly what happened, but clearly he didn't move, so he'll probably just play out the year. And then in the offseason. Is he free agent in the offseason? Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But obviously in the offseason, he'll probably go elsewhere, so this
Yeah.
it's the Jazz too. It's not like he's come on.
Right.
So no offense to the
Yeah.
Jazz, but it's like it's just
Rebuild.
not nothing to be excited about. It's Westbrook. Yeah, I wouldn't touch it at all.
You lost your chance to sell Westbrook when he went to the Rockets 5-6
Yeah,
seasons
exactly.
ago. I think that was your
Yeah.
best opportunity.
Yeah,
So,
or when he first came to the Lakers.
Yeah, exactly. And if he stayed at the Lakers, like he was playing
Right.
better than he did previously. But now that he's gone to the Jazz, I think you got to hold for a long time until he retires. Speaking of the Lakers, D'Angelo
Right.
Russell has gone to the Lakers. I know his cards are very affordable now. Do you think this is a good value play or?
I thought it was a curious move because some people may disagree with me. I didn't think it's that much of a upgrade, like I don't see D'Lo being any more mature than he was when he was first on the Lakers. Like I don't see him contributing to like a championship run. Like I don't think the Lakers really got better at all. But I will say the trade is a W because you're able to finally get rid of the Westbrook and his contract and all of the negative publicity and the circus that kind of comes with Westbrook. Finally, I'm sure they've been trying for a while, finally able to rid of that. So in that sense, it's a W.
Yeah.
But in terms of actual operations in basketball and whatnot, I don't know, man. I don't see it. I don't see that it makes the Lakers any better. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of addition by
Right.
subtraction when it comes to Westbrook. So I guess that's the biggest news out of those
Right.
trades. The next three guys, I'm just going to bring them up, or at least two. They were considered, I guess, top 10 prospects or rookies coming into the league during their
Right.
draft class. And, for one reason or another, they kind of fell off, but maybe going to a new team will help them. So speaking of Lakers again, Rui Hachimura going to the Lakers. And I'll throw in James Wiseman going to the Pistons. Have we given up on these guys?
Rui's a solid player. I think your window, because we're now talking like this wasn't a deadline day deal. This was last week.
Right.
I think if you held Rui cards last week was your chance. So if you didn't do it last week, you probably missed your chance. He's going to get buried in the news now. He's probably going to come off the bench and play decent for the Lakers. I don't think it's going to be any crazier than what he's been doing for Washington. So fairly meaningless for Rui, which is kind of unfortunate. I think he's a pretty solid player. Wiseman, dude, I think he's a total bust. Like when I watch him, he, maybe it's because of the system. Maybe he's a little bit intimidated by a whole bunch of world-class veterans. But he looks completely lost. Like it doesn't look like he even knows how to play basketball. It's like a really sad sight to see. So James Wiseman, we'll see. I mean, Detroit I don't know what they're doing. They're like trying to lock up every former bust center or so, like I don't know what they're trying to do with him. And what's his face? The guy from Sacramento. I'm losing my thought right now. Oh, what's his Bagley. They have Marvin Bagley too, right?
Oh, Marvin Bagley. Right.
So I'm not sure. I guess they're just taking on a whole bunch of projects, but we'll see. I wouldn't, Wiseman, I think a lot of people were high on him and they're waiting for him to come back from injury. So sadly, I think there are people who have held on to his cards looking for that opportunity to sell it and it just never came. I would probably, with this news, or if he comes out, Detroit plays, drops a 30-point game, and there's some sort of buzz, I would probably let it go as fast as I can.
Yeah, you got to hold on to Wiseman. There's nothing more you can do at this point, right? Like, unless you're willing to sell for complete loss. I agree with you. Like, to play with the Warriors, you have to have high IQ on that team, right? Especially playing with Curry. Like, the system revolves around him, too. So, I think a move to Detroit could be good, especially with the young guys, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, of course, once they come back. He could be a contributor, but that's like a mid to long term play at this point. You're looking at next season at the earliest. And Rui Hachimura, you kind of nailed it right on the head. You lost your opportunity last week. LBJ had his scoring record title. That kind of news dominated. It's over. It's like Rui, who's Rui? He's on the Lakers. What? Yeah, and he, playing with the Lakers now, he's like what? Like he's just gonna be overshadowed by, LeBron, Anthony Davis, like all these. Like, there's no way he's gonna outshine those guys.
Did you see the joke on Thomas Bryant? Because on LeBron's game-winning shot, if you watch the replay, he's like in the post asking for the ball, and the joke was like, Thomas Bryant asked for the ball on LeBron's, like record-breaking shot. His ass gets traded the next day.
I saw that, but it was a different caption. It's like, you gotta love the fundamentals. He's just still playing the game.
Oh, funny.
He's like, that was a funny meme. All right, I think that's it. I was gonna throw in a joke, but your boy Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he got traded to the Timberwolves.
Let's hope he gets some play. Just get some burn, please.
Yeah, and all roads have to go up at this point, hopefully for him. All right, lots of action. I thought we can cover quickly. It'll be exciting to see, especially the Suns and the Mavs play now, heading into the playoffs. And we'll see soon enough what kind of hobby impact there is, if any. Okay, let's move on to our next segment we're calling Hockey Highlights. So I thought, since Hyung's away and John, you're here, who happens to be our resident hockey analyst, we could devote a segment to hockey cards. I know some of our Canadian listeners have been asking for it, as well as some friends, in the States who are hockey diehards. Plus, the timing works out because we just had the NHL All-Star break. So I think it's a good time to see which players have stood out this season so far, and also to see if their rookie cards might be worth checking out. And I also wanted to see if there were any players you had in mind, John, that seem to be flying under the radar and could be a sneaky value play as well. So yeah, let's start with the standouts. I'm just going to throw it to you because I feel like you're going to talk 90% of the segment. And I'm going to say I agree or I don't. But let's start with the standouts. Is there anyone that surprised you at all this season?
There's no question, if you watch hockey, the biggest surprise is Tage Thompson, I think. I think most hockey people will agree. He had a monster season last year, got the big contract. I think people a little bit weary. Okay, he kind of like Jonathan Chichu back in the day. He scored 45 goals one year and then just fall off the planet. Right. So I think people were a little bit weary of giving away. I don't know what he signed for, like 7 years, $7 million per, something like that, some kind of monster contract. And people are weary if he could repeat it. And he is looking ridiculous. Like, that contract is looking like a steal. When you watch Tage Thompson, like, he's had the hands in tight, being able to like deke through a phone booth, as they say. He's had that in the junior stages when I watched him back in the day, but he has blossomed, man. I didn't think he would. I'm really surprised that he's been able to get this confident. The games I've seen, my goodness, like, he looks like a 6 foot, what is he, 6'7", 6'8", Patrick, like a 6'8" Patrick Kane. Like, that's what he looks like. His hand, he's just dominant, so confident, like pulls, the craziest moves in tight in like pressure pack situations. Like, he's turned it around. Not even turned around. He's just blossomed all the way up. So I think Tage Thompson is number one surprise. His card, I haven't looked at his card prices, but I'm sure they've doubled, tripled from, they're probably fairly low. So they've come up quite a bit. So he's not necessarily like a flying under the radar guy, but in terms of your first question, biggest surprise in the NHL this year, for me, for sure, Tage Thompson.
Yeah, that's definitely Tage Thompson's a standout. So yeah, that's a good one. Any other players that stood out for you this season?
Well, I mean, we talked about this right before coming on the air. Jason Robertson, I think he had a big year last year. And there's a very similar situation to Thompson, where people kind of wanted to wait and see. It wasn't just kind of a fluke year, and he's showing everybody that he's here to stay. He's here to be a perennial all-star player. So Robertson's a big one too. Yep.
I want to ask you, though, I asked you off air because I didn't know if this was like a fluke or, someone that's just having another good season. But glad to hear that he's doing well. And I think, look, you look at the top scores, he's still up there, right? Like, he hasn't dropped off that much.
And he's half Asian. Asian pride, baby.
I know. That's gotta go for our brother there. I got a couple names, and I just wanted to see what your thoughts are. Our homeboy, maybe this is a bias, Mitchell Marner. I think he's probably the highest scoring Leaf right now, and I think I'm gonna add Austin Matthews too, because like this was kind of a different part of the segment, but I might as well do it at the same time. So Mitch Marner, do you think his play is like surprising? This is the way, just how much he's contributed so far. And on the flip side, are you concerned at all about Austin Matthews? You know, I guess he was out for a little bit in terms of injury, right, but I'm not producing probably what we expected he would be doing.
I think to a lot of hardcore Leaf fans, it's not surprising. Most pretty strong Leaf fans will know that Mitch Marner could be argued as our best Leaf, even last year. Even with, Austin Matthews' crazy year, Mitch Marner was still one of the best players on the ice. And some people will hate him because he's smaller, diminutive, maybe, gets pushed around in the playoffs. Not your typical what you want for like a big playoff run, especially going up against a team like Boston or St. Louis Blues. So he does has his faults, but he is every bit elite. And I think it's not necessarily surprising, but Matthews, on the other hand, I think he is still just as elite. I think he's had a couple of injuries that he's kind of been dealing with. He's missing like a game or game or two here and there. I personally think he's a little more injured than it seems. So that's probably what's pulling him back. I think there's a great opportunity. I haven't looked at Matthews' prices, but I'm sure they're fairly stale. If not, has gone down, especially gone down since last year, because Matthews was all the hype last year. So I think maybe wait it a little bit more if especially people in Toronto, like if you're just in general like a Matthews fan, I think there's going to be a great opportunity to buy into some Matthew cards. Yeah,
I'm just looking at his prices. His SP Authentic Future Watch, the one's numbered to $9.99, last sold February 6th for $5,500 US.
There you go.
And if you've gone to the shows here in Toronto, they're selling easily over $10K. All the time, right? All the time. Even now, they're not going to drop the value, but if you buy on eBay, that's $5,500 US. That's how much it's dropped. So, I'm it's a little bit too much for me to invest in an Austin Matthews card, but if you're a true believer, it's kind of getting to a good price, I think. Yeah. Anyone else in terms of standouts?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to start talking about under the radar, there's two defensemen. Obviously, Erik Karlsson is another standout. He has completely turned around his season, career, looking every bit the elite Erik Karlsson that he used to be. So I mean, his Young Gun cards, even his Future Watch, I think were going for pretty cheap. I don't remember the prices, but I remember thinking when I saw people posting prices, I was like, whoa, that Erik Karlsson, like, geez, that seems really cheap. So Erik, I don't know where the prices are now, but I think Erik Karlsson could be somebody. If he continues this, he's probably destined to start going, Hall of Fame conversation. So it could be a long-term play. Tage Thompson's teammate, another defenseman, Rasmus Dahlin. Like, I think if we're going to really seriously talk about what has changed Buffalo's season and why they're a good team now and not a joke, Tage Thompson is certainly one of the contributors. But honestly, in my eyes, it's Rasmus Dahlin is a big component of that, bigger than Tage Thompson. Like the way he moves the puck.
Really?
Yeah. Wow, if you have somebody on the back end that, exits the zone with confidence, enters the zone with confidence, just is able to move the puck, what he does on the power play. If you watch Buffalo Sabres games, that makes all the difference in the world. And Ottawa would be the first to tell you when Erik Karlsson was in his peak years, like he probably carried that team. And that's the reason why they're in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. So I think a lot of credit should go to Dahlin. And I'm sure in the hobby, it's not. I don't think Dahlin has a Future Watch auto. Yeah, he has a Future Watch card, but maybe he
super cheap.
I think he was one of those players that, I don't know, didn't sign it, or they couldn't get him to sign it, or maybe he was under, he he was under contract with somebody else. I don't know. So he doesn't have an auto, but he does have a young, like he's got a Future Watch normal card, number to 999 without the auto.
Right.
But obviously his Young Guns card is probably the one to go after, and it's pretty cheap. But I mean, again, bit of caution. It is a defenseman, but he is scoring at over a point per game. Like he's in the top 20 scoring right now, right? So he's producing with the big boys. Crazy. So yeah. I think Dahlin is one.
Yeah, just to give you some context, his Young Guns PSA 10 sold in February for $167.50.
Okay.
So,
also, it's gone up, I think. I remember it used to be like it used to be like 90, 100, 110.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's gone up significantly. And you're talking about Erik Karlsson, his Future Watch Auto PSA 10 sold for just under 500. So that sounds like a pretty good deal for a player of his caliber.
And I think in the beginning of the season, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was like 250. I think that's the price I was remembering for Erik Karlsson's Future Watch. Yeah, it was down there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like, this just goes to show you there's like plays to be made in hockey cards, like within season too. Right. You know what I mean? Like, because they're so, like, I think we talked about this in a previous episode where like Future Watch autos are so cheap in comparison to like, other sports, in terms of like autograph cards in basketball or baseball. And if you know your stuff in hockey, you can certainly make some moves for sure. For sure.
I mean, in this down market in the past year, of all the cards I have, only 2 cards that I own went up. One was Rory McIlroy that we talked about. The other was my Brady Tkachuk Future Watch, which I ended up trading away when I thought the price was great. But those were the only 2 cards and Brady Tkachuk was the only Future Watch I owned. It was my first Future Watch auto.
Right.
And that's one of the cards that made me money in this past year. So, it's if you're not into hockey, it's a bit of a different world in terms of sports card collecting. It's sort of got its own little market. So you got to know it pretty well. I'm not even there to know how well, what moves in Future Watch. I'm not there yet, but I'm certainly keeping a keen eye on it. Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, it's not a huge investment for a lot of these players, right? Like in terms of even Future Watch autos that are numbered to $9.99. Obviously, the marquee guys are thousands of dollars, but like your Brady Tkachuk's a perfect example, right? Like, relatively low investment, you can flip it for double at the right time.
Exactly. Like I paid I think I paid like $270-ish USD. I picked it up a year ago. And then when I sold it, or when I traded it, the last sold was $600. So
that's a damn good flip.
Yeah, so it was a decent flip during a time where I pretty much lost money on everything else. So it was my one silver lining.
All right, cool. Any other under the radar type of players?
Lastly, I think 2 veterans that I want to mention. I think Pasternak is back on people's radar. Pasternak, Kucherov, they're kind of in a similar bucket. Yeah. They're in the top 10 scoring, producing as they always produce. I think they're 2 underrated superstars. And in terms,
before you go on, I have to give you props for Kucherov. I've been a Kucherov hater, so now I'm on record saying I was wrong about Kucherov. Go get his card.
It's a shame he doesn't have a Future Watch auto, but his Young Guns is still sitting at a pretty decent price. And then in terms of young guys that were hyped and lost a little bit of their luster, I think Jack Hughes, I mentioned before, earlier in the season. Jack Hughes, he's producing like I thought he would produce. He looks elite. And Elias Pettersson, he's back. Like, I mean, he's back to his elite self on a horrible team. And putting up those types of numbers.
Canucks, right?
So I think Pettersson, he had his hype days about 18 months ago. It's gone down quite a bit since then, but he could be somebody to look out for as well.
Yep, and I'm looking at Jack Hughes, SP Authentic Future Watch, recently sold for PSA 10, sold for $2,300. So he's going up.
Oh, that's high.
He's gone up.
Crazy.
Yeah. So he's getting, at least people are paying attention to him.
Right.
And does Elias Pettersson have a Future Watch?
He does. Yeah, he's got a Future Watch.
Okay, I'll look it up, see what it's worth. The one I want to bring up, actually, you put in my head, and it's not really like under the radar, but it kind of is. Connor McDavid. We're talking about how under the radar in terms of like how elite he actually is. Right. Like he still doesn't get that kind of respect and attention that he probably should. You know, if it was in any sport where it's like, who's the first place guy, and then the second place guy is way below them in terms of point scoring. Right. Like, you know, you're gonna realize like, wow, he's definitely in another tier of his own. Yes. And what were you saying about his scoring right now? Like he's how many far ahead?
Right. So Connor McDavid, if people haven't been following scoring, he's already at 41 goals in 51 games. He's at 93 points. Second place in scoring is, no surprise, Leon Draisaitl, his teammate, at 76 points. Connor McDavid is almost 20 points ahead of his own teammate. He is doing, it is literally shinny hockey in the NHL. Like, it's ridiculous what this guy is doing. You know, all the guys we mentioned before are underrated, underappreciated in the hockey market, right? So if you're not a hockey collector, we're not going out and saying like these are great buy nows. It's more for the hockey market. Connor McDavid is not necessarily hockey market. Like Connor McDavid is sports card market. He is, again, Charizard. He is Verstappen. He is one of the dudes to pick up if you want to dabble in a sport. And if you want to dabble in hockey, it's Connor McDavid. Yeah, so for one of those types of superstar pieces in your sports card collection, he's doing ridiculous things right now. And I think you're bang on in that you can very much argue that he is underrated in the sports card community. So yeah.
I like it. After you kind of put that on my radar in terms of how far he's ahead of scoring, I started to go on eBay to see if I could find a good deal on one of his rookie. It's still up there, but like like you said, like he's just so underrated. It seems like it's a good investment even at some of the prices that it's listed for now.
Right. To be fair, there is sort of like a so what component to this, because I think no matter what McDavid does, there are going to be people sitting on the sidelines saying, so what? Where's his Stanley Cup? Right? I want to see him exit out of the second round or something like that, right? So there are going to be people that aren't going to really care about if he scores 190 points in the season until he starts racking up some Stanley Cups. So I get that part as well. True. If we want to be fair about it.
Do you think he's going to win a Stanley Cup?
I think so. Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
The Oilers?
You know what? I used to doubt it a bit because of how terrible and how dysfunctional Oilers management seems to be. But I think Connor McDavid, how ridiculously special he is, I think he won't be denied. There's going to be a time, maybe not this season, but there's going to be a time where he wins. Maybe a couple.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm just looking where the Oilers are. It's a pretty good record, 29-18, but they're in the wild card spot. So, they're not definitely, they have room to improve. Yeah. It's always the goaltending, right? Like they just need a super elite goalie, and I think that might help push them over the edge. Yeah. But
sorry, I was going to say I'm working on a deal right now, trying to land a McDavid card. It's hit and miss. I'm hoping it got close, and I don't know where we kind of stand right now. But we'll see. Hopefully by this time next week, I can bring some good news. But we'll see. Cross my fingers.
Yeah. I hope you could share later once the deal is made. But yeah, it's a pretty monster card. Right. It's pretty awesome. I was gonna say to your point about Connor McDavid being like. Not just important in the hockey card market, but in the sports card market. Like he's pretty much the next closest to Wayne Gretzky, right? Wayne Gretzky is a sports card market kind of guy too, where no matter what sport you're into, you know who Wayne Gretzky is.
Exactly.
I think McDavid's probably going to be the one closest to that when his career is all said and done. Right. So you heard it from a couple of Canadian guys here on this podcast. And if you're looking to dabble into hockey, McDavid's almost a good surefire bet. Okay, thanks, Johnny, for our hockey highlights update. We'll try to do this more frequently and have Hyung kind of chime in as well. I know he always jokes about not wanting to talk about hockey and baseball. This is more his thing. So I thought we'd at least take the opportunity while he's away to really go deeper into this hockey segment. All right, with that, let's go on to our final regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And if you're new to our podcast, this is the segment where both of us, or when Hyung's here, the three of us, we choose two players or two cards, and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right. So we usually throw it to Hyung to start things off, but since he's not here, Johnny, you want to start things off?
Do it. So in light of all of the NBA news, and we touched on it a bit with the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to go Chris Paul 2005 Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10, pop count of 21, sitting at $2,400, versus Devin Booker 2015 Prism Silver PSA 10, $1,100 with a pop of 200. Two once basketball and hobby darlings that lost a lot of their image and likeness, whatever you want to call it, after they horribly lost to Luka in Game 7.
Right.
So I know these guys aren't favorites anymore, but of the two.
This is a really good one because, oh man, there's so many factors in play.
Yeah, right?
Like, I think the card itself, Topps Chrome Refractor, like that's our kind of our era.
Yes.
And it's like, it's a beautiful set, beautiful card, especially with the refractor with the shine. PSA 10, super low pop count, hard to get that in PSA 10. The price, is the only negative factor. Like, it's $2,400. It's kind of pricey for Chris Paul, like for that kind of player. I know he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I feel like the volatility, in terms of whether it can go up further, I think it's probably limited. I think this is kind of where it's going to stand, even if he wins a championship. Devin Booker, like I've kind of been getting a growing disdain for silver prisms. Like I sold a bunch. I sold my Trae Young. I sell my Luka, but I'm always looking to shop it. But the 200 pop count is pretty low for a silver prism, right? For that year, 2015. So I like that about it. And the 1100, obviously, I like the price a lot better. I think the X factor for me is going to be the volatility. I think it's going to be higher for Devin Booker. So if they win if they win the championships, I think there's a better chance for me to flip the Devin Booker silver prism at 1100 for a higher profit.
Right.
And that's going to be my play for these two cards.
Right.
If it's for the PC, I think I probably prefer Chris Paul because of all the reasons I just stated, the Topps Chrome Refractor.
Or long-term play.
Or long-term for sure. But short-term flip, investor hat, I'm going to go choose Devin Booker.
Right. Ooh, yeah, I put these ones, I thought of it, and it was actually good that the pops were wildly different and the pricing was wildly different. Man, Booker has like when you say you have a growing disdain for Prism Silver, there's been a growing disdain for Booker, the player.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I think Booker, dude, Booker was like 12 months ago. I think he was a darling. Like even I was like big on Booker, and he talked a big game. Always talked about emulating Kobe. Always screaming on the court saying, "I'm that dude. I'm the next Kobe."
Right.
And then you end up talking, crap to Luka in the another darling, and then you proceed to get embarrassed on your home court in Game 7. And after that, I think there was just this, like, yeah, Booker, he's not that guy. Stop acting tough. Stop being like, you're not him. Stop saying that. So I think there's been this weird growing disdain for Booker just as a player, and I think that has a lot to do why his prices. He's just not a fan favorite anymore, right? So that's the part that's tough for me. Like Chris Paul, not so as much, but I think Chris Paul, prior to Durant coming into the news, I think people stopped believing that he's going to have any chance of ever winning a ring. So that really just cratered his card, right? But I think there's still people like Chris Paul, I think. So this is a tough for me too. If you put for me, it's like, because it's so different depending on what hat you wear, right? If you're thinking long term, I think Chris Paul is the easy one here. Topps Chrome, Pop 21. If you're taking short term flip, I think I'm with you too. So, you know what? I can't. My tiebreaker is Topps Chrome Refractor.
Okay.
like OG basketball Topps Chrome refractor, especially with Topps Chrome basketball making re-entrance, could really shine a big light on. We've had some OG guests on here talking about Topps Chrome refractors. I think the Chris Paul rookie could surprise. I think there could be some volatility based on the brand outside of the player. So I'm gonna give the tie. I kind of have these two at a tiebreaker. I'm gonna put a biased tiebreaker to Topps Chrome refractor. It is a bit more expensive, but it's a Pop 21. You can, if you have that card, you can in the future kind of decide how much you want to sell it for. So I think that's gonna play a big part. I'm gonna go Chris Paul.
Okay. Yeah. No, that was a good one. I didn't know Devin Booker was hated that much. So
I could be wrong, but that's me. Yeah, that's me. And I feel like, when I read some of the comments, if I see like a Devin Booker in a meme, or if I see Devin Booker in a clip, the comments on Devin Booker are so different than they were last year.
There's only one way Devin Booker could get past that. He just got to perform on the court.
Exactly.
Like, he's just got to show up and show what he can do. All right, good one. My 1v1 or my pick one is kind of similar, actually. I got your idea. I got my idea after seeing yours, like just in the theme of the NBA trade deadline.
Right.
So we talked about Kyrie Irving. We talked about Luka Doncic. So I put them together. Both are silver prisms. Kyrie Irving silver prism PSA 10. Last sold for $1,750, $1,750. Pop count is 26 for a PSA 10 silver.
Jeez.
And it's from the iconic 2012 Prism set for basketball.
Right.
And of course, Luka Doncic, his 2018 Prism rookie card, silver, PSA 10, last sold for $2,050, so $300 more. And his pop count, as we know, is 2,173.
Right.
So higher pop count, much higher pop count, but it's liquid.
Yeah. Ooh. Pop 26, 2012 Prism silver. Oh man, that's to be fair, the last sold was 1770 or whatever it's at. If that showed up on market right now, I'm sure that price would be like 25, 26, I'm guessing. It's just so rare. Like, you don't see a PSA 10 Kyrie Irving Prism silver on the market. I want to pick Kyrie, but I don't like Kyrie, man. I love Luka and I don't like Kyrie. Like, what sucks is that Kyrie, man, if he didn't have these antics, like if he didn't like quit on Cleveland and quit on Boston and quit on the Nets, like, he could be in conversation to be well on his way into like top 25 all time. Like, his skill, basketball, everything is just, godly. Like, he is one of these Kevin Durant type of generational talents. And it's just too bad he's such a head case and becoming so unlikable. So it's tough, man. I think investment wise, I feel like Kyrie is a bit more of the better pick, but no, I gotta stick with my boy Luka. I think if he has a chance at winning MVPs, let's say they surprise and they win the championship this year, I think Kyrie's card's going to obviously go up, but I think Luka is going to be different. So he's going to get all the credit in the world. So I think I'm sticking with Luka. I'm scared of Kyrie. I'm scared Kyrie's going to be 10 games in and just quit on the team. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with that guy. So yeah.
Yeah. No, totally understandable. Man, I'm still going back and forth.
Right? This is a good one.
I think I'm in the same boat as you. I desperately want to pick Kyrie.
Right.
Like, that's a nice, beautiful card with the super low pop count.
The price is super cheap too.
Yeah, if it's 17, and that sold January 29th, so a couple weeks ago, right? Obviously before the trade news. But and then on the flip side, like, I'm, like I said earlier, I'm kind of worried about the pop count. Like, it's kind of up there, like when you think about it. And I know it's liquid. I know, I think we've hit the baseline for this card at 2K. Like, I haven't seen anything go below that, but I haven't seen it spike up for a while now. And I think that's partly due to the pop count, being at over 2,100.
Right.
So I might have to.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like the price on the Kyrie, the pop count on that card, the iconicness, if that's even a word, of the 2012 Prism. I feel you, man. I feel you.
I'm gonna go Kyrie.
All right.
I'm gonna take the risk.
Yep.
And the reason why I didn't choose Chris Paul was the price of that card with the low pop count. This kind of flipped where the price right now, at least in terms of last sold value, is lower than Luka's. So all things the same, I guess, in terms of the Chris Paul versus Devin Booker argument, the price is going to be my tiebreaker. If it was like 4,000 or 3,500 for a pop 26 of Kyrie, I would easily go with Luka for just to be safe. But not saying 1,750 is a small amount of money that I can just gamble away on. But I think at that pop count, and I think there's enough people that respect Kyrie for his basketball skills. Regardless of his off the court antics, I think there'll be some that would value his card, when he calls it quits. So I'll take the risk at 1,750.
I like it.
With the low pop count and the 2012 Prism set as well, coming from the iconic set. I think that's another factor why I would lean towards Kyrie. All right, we'll see what Hyung says when he gets back. I wonder what he could play the tiebreaker for both of our pick ones, since we chose different ones this time. All right, thanks again for all our listeners and subscribers for tuning in to another episode of Cards to the Moon. We do have an Instagram page if you didn't know. You can follow us there. We'd like to post a lot of regular daily posts about things we talk about on the podcast, so please do follow us there. And then we'd like to also have a couple contests every few months, so you could always enter there as well. If you haven't given us a 5-star rating and you enjoyed our podcast, we would really appreciate that as well. And until next time, we will have another episode. I believe our next one is a Friday episode coming up, so we'll see you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU@Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.